Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here tonight. It's so wonderful to see so many people in this room. My name's Polly, and I'm the founder of the Sharan Project. For many of you who already know me, you know what I'm about to say next. And for those who don't, just a few words about the charity and why we're here tonight. So, the Sharan Project was set up in 2008, particularly to support women, especially South Asian women, who get disowned by their families and communities. This is a particular issue that we've seen from generation to generation, where particularly young women are often ostracised, isolated and disengaged in society. It was our vision, and it remains our vision, to ensure that every woman, whether she's been disowned, has the opportunity for a successful independent life. The way we do that is to ensure that we support and nurture each person who comes to us for support, to allow them to identify the correct options and choices that are available for them to live their lives on their own terms. Many of the women that we work with have often faced various levels of abuse. You've seen from the video many of those issues raised, such as forced marriage, honour-related violence, domestic violence, but there are so many more reasons that more and more women are leaving home and then as a result of that being left to fend for themselves and quite often for the rest of their lives. So thank you once again for taking a ticket, for taking the time to be here tonight, because in essence what you're doing is supporting this charity and the women that we support. So thank you. We have a wonderful lineup this evening, and I'm delighted that we have His Holiness Radhanath Swami, who's kindly agreed to speak on the topic of love and compassion, with particular reference to survivor disownment. So I know that's why you're all here, and we will move forward from that very shortly. But before that, we have an amazing speaker who's kindly agreed to come here tonight, and that is Lady Levi, who's kindly agreed to talk to us again on her thoughts on this subject, and also the work that she does with the Women's Interfaith Network. Finally, we have our host for the evening, Sunny Growal, who will be taken to the stage and having a conversation, if you like, with Radhanath Swami, where we're all able to get involved by listening in. At the end of that, there'll be an opportunity for questions from the floor if there's more time. So without further ado, thank you very much for being here. It means an awful lot, not just to me and my team, but to the women that we support. And I would like to now introduce you to welcome, put your hands together to welcome Lady Gilda Levi.
Ladies and gentlemen, when Polly asked me to speak this evening, I was both honoured and touched, because I have known Polly for a very, very long time, and she has a very special place in my heart. I first met Polly several years ago when she came to the offices of the Women's Interfaith Network, showing an interest in the work that we do, and she told me about Sharan. She is a member of our advisory board. She is always there with the best advice, her sense, her professionalism, her caring, her humanity, and the fact that she always has a lovely smile on her face and is always laughing, and we have some great times together. Polly, thank you so much for letting me speak this evening for something that is very close to my heart as well. I grew up and had my teenage years in the 50s and 60s, at a time when the world had come through the most terrible, terrible war, but we felt that things really could only get better. We felt that the world that was emerging would be a better world, a kinder world, a more humanitarian world. If anybody would have said to me then that in the 21st century we would still need an organisation like Sharan or the Women's Interfaith Network, that there would still be women who were forced into marriages that they didn't want, there would still be people in slavery, that there would be religious fanaticism and radicalisation, I would have laughed at them and said, no, that's totally impossible. We're never going to be like that. We're going to move forward and things are going to get better. Well, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, things are not getting better. And the fact that we still need an organisation like Sharan is a very, very sad fact. As glad as I am to be here, it's a sad fact. You know, they call it forced marriage. They call it honor. There's no honor. There's no honor in forcing somebody into a situation that is totally wrong for them. It's a very real problem, and it's a real problem in this country, where still young South Asian girls and young women are being forced to marry people that they don't know, that they don't care about, that they don't love. They're being treated like belongings, and something that really we have to say, it's evil and it has to stop. I know that in many communities, I mean, I come from the Jewish community, which is itself a strong, cultural, religious-based community, where it's not always easy to break out, where it's not always easy to assert yourself and say what it is you want out of life. And I know it's hard for certain communities, but really we have to look long and hard at what some of these traditions are. I know there is a very high rate of suicide among South Asian women because of this. And I know very many of the women are forced to leave their families and their communities because they can't face the thought of being pushed into a marriage that they really don't want. Many of the girls and the young women are highly educated. They have ambitions, they have hopes, they have dreams, and we are losing talent that really we need for the future. So it's very important that these young women can fulfill themselves, can fulfill the people that they have to be. Lives are cut short, and these women very often feel they have no choices. But thank goodness we have an organization like Sharan that can give them hope, an organization that they can turn to where somebody cares, where somebody can show them a way forward. Sharan helps to empower women. It helps women to make the choices for themselves, choices that they need to make for their lives, their well-being, their sanity. You know, it's very hard. I know it's very hard for me as an outsider to speak about this, because people say to me, you don't know, you don't live in that tradition, you don't know what it's like. But you know, there are certain rights and wrongs in life, and it's wrong for anybody, whether a man, a woman, wherever they come from, to be forced into a life that is wrong for them, where they can't fulfill themselves, where they can't blossom, where they can't become the person they want and need to be. As I said, I first met Polly through the Women's Interfaith Network. The Women's Interfaith Network is an organization that I co-founded with Pinky Lilani CB, who I'm sure many of you in this room know. Pinky's a very close friend of mine. And we formed the Women's Interfaith Network as a response to the 9/11, to the terrible, terrible atrocities of 9/11. When many of the communities, the faith communities, I know the Muslim community and the Jewish community, were frightened. They retreated back into their communities, behind their walls. They pulled up the drawbridge, and people were not connecting with each other, which makes it even harder for young women who are facing forced marriages to break away and to assert themselves. The Pinky and I started the Women's Interfaith Network to get women together, to empower women, to get women meeting each other, to get them to realize that really we all want the same things. We all need the same things. We need to be free. We need to be respected. We need to understand each other. We need to stop seeing each other through the masks. We need to stop seeing the labels that we put on each other and see each other as human beings. And that again ties so much in with what Sharan is doing, because we need to see these young women as human beings with needs. So we started the Women's Interfaith Network by bringing women together from all the different communities. We work from Anglican to Zoroastrian. We encompass everybody. And as I said, Polly has become a very, very intricate part of our work. We work very much to empower women, as I said. And now we have another problem, these terrible, terrible events, the plane that was shot down, the massacres in Paris. And again, I have the feeling that communities are once again retreating from each other. Communities are once again going behind their barriers and not reaching out to each other. How are we going to defeat this? The only way to defeat this, the only way, is through dialogue, love, compassion, understanding, and realizing that we all ride on this planet together. And unless we actually start respecting each other, and that's respect of parents for their children, respect of children for their parents, respect of each other, one human being to another, respecting people's right to be different, respecting people's right to worship differently, to live a different life. We have to do that. It's the only way we can survive. It's the only way we can actually cure the problems of the planet and cure the problems of the human species and defeat radicalism and defeat fanaticism. Not by withdrawing, not by being frightened. One thing these terrorists want is for us to be frightened of each other. And when you start dehumanizing another person, when you start looking at another person and saying, they don't look like us, they're not the same color as us, they don't worship the same as us, they don't eat the same food, they don't wear the same clothes, then you'd start dehumanizing them. Then you separate yourself completely from humanity. And the next step is killing them. So we have to fight this, and we have to fight it on all fronts. We have to fight it on the front of forced marriage. We have to fight it on the front of prejudice and bigotry and hatred. We have many, many women involved in our organization, and many women have come to me and said, you know, I've formed a friendship with somebody who I would never, ever have believed I could be friendly with. Jewish and Muslim women being friendly with each other, Christian and Muslim and Jewish women, the whole gamut, and Hindus and Sikhs being friendly with Christians and Muslims, and real friendships and lasting friendships. And also by doing this, we are empowering women. We're empowering women to speak out. We're empowering women to speak out against prejudice and bigotry and radicalization and fanaticism. Because, you know, all this starts in the home. No child is born hating. You have to teach children to hate, but you can teach them to love. You don't need to teach them to hate. It's easy to teach a child to love. So the aim of WIN is to bring women together and to empower them, as the aim of Sharan is to support women and to empower them to live the lives they need to live. We want to replace bigotry and prejudice with understanding and respect and compassion for others. To combat stereotypes, we are continually shown stereotypes through the media. We have to stop that. We have to combat that. We have to speak against that. And we do this through dialogue with each other, understanding each other, talking to each other, talking about the things that matter, talking about the things that are serious in our lives. These are the important things. You know, as women, and I'm talking to the women more than the men, as women, we have to do everything we can to make sure our daughters and sons, our granddaughters and our grandsons, and all the future generations grow up in a society where everyone is valued, regardless of gender. Everyone is allowed to realize their full potential, to be the person they really want to be, regardless of ethnicity, religion, sexuality, gender. Everybody has the right to live the life that is right for them. We need to form a society where we can live, pray, marry whomever we want to in peace and freedom. We owe it to future generations. We owe it to the children that are coming after us. I've got a young granddaughter. I owe it to her to make sure that the future is much, much better than the present. But before we can do that, we have to change our attitude. And I go back to Sharan, because we have to change the attitudes that are sometimes so ingrained in us that we feel it's almost heretical to go against them. But we have to question, we have to continually question and say, is this right? Is this what we should be doing? Are we hurting somebody by doing this? So we owe it to the future generations. We owe it to our daughters and our sons and our granddaughters and our grandsons, as much to the men as it is to the women. Because I'm sure no man who is in a forced marriage can be really happy. I'm sure they're not. So once again, I applaud the work that Paul is doing, and Sharan. I think it's amazing, and all the people that are involved with her, and all the people that are working with her. And I thank you again, Polly, for everything you're doing for us in the Women's Interfaith Network. I think you're amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very important charity, Sharan. Please support it. Please really support it as much as you can. Thank you very much.
Can we get a big round of applause? Lady Levi there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for sharing and taking time out this evening.